सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः। ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः। देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः। आत्मा रामानन्दरमणा अच्युत केशव हरिनारायण। आत्मा रामानन्दरमणा अच्युत केशव हरिनारायण। भवभयहरणा वन्दितचरणा भवभयहरणा वन्दितचरणा। रघुकुलभूषण राजीवलोचन रघुकुलभूषण राजीवलोचन। आदिनारायण अनन्तशयना आदिनारायण अनन्तशयना। सच्चिदानन्दा सत्यनारायण सच्चिदानन्दा सत्यनारायण। भवभयहरणा वन्दितचरणा भवभयहरणा वन्दितचरणा। रघुकुलभूषण राजीवलोचन रघुकुलभूषण राजीवलोचन। आत्मा रामानन्दरमणा आनन्दरमणा। Hari Om, prostrations to one and all. So yesterday we were discussing the importance of values, the importance of understanding the value of values. So to summarize the whole discussion in brief, when we compare these two people, a value-based person and a valueless person, how can we compare? So Bhagavan says, यह शास्त्र विधिम उत्सृज्य वर्तते कामकारतः न स सिद्धिम अवाप्नोति न सुखम न पराम गतिम। न सुखम in this world also, A person who lives a licentious life, a valueless life, he is never happy in this world. Na siddhim, the question of getting liberated doesn't even arise. As far as moksha is concerned, forget about it. Even in this world itself, he is not happy. Na param gatim, hereafter, after death also, his misery continues. A person who follows a life of values, who lives a life of values, he is happy with himself. He is happy in his family. He is happy with other families also. In fact, a person who truly lives a life of values, for him, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the whole world is a family. What about the other person, a valueless person? Forget about considering the whole world as family. In his own family, he is miserable. Even when he runs away from his own family, when he lives a lonely life, is he happy? No. Even when he is alone, he is not happy. Why? See, you can run away from joint family. You can run away from nuclear family. And even when you are alone, you are with your mind. What kind of mind? The mind of a valueless person will be a mind trained in selfishness, self-centeredness, narrow-mindedness. Now, such a mind is giving company to you when you are alone. So, will you be happy in the company of such a vicious, narrow mind? So, a valueless person is miserable even when he is alone. You may escape from joint family, nuclear family, but you can't escape from your mind. So your misery continues. Helplessly you suffer in the company of your mind. Compare the value-based person with a valueless person. A value-based person is happy even when alone because the mind is trained in values. Such a disciplined, pure mind is a wonderful friend. It is always peaceful and cheerful. So a value-based person is happy even when he is alone, or even when he is with his family, or even when he is with the whole world. See the difference? Not only that he is happy with himself and others, he gives happiness to everyone. He is loved by everyone. He is loved by his family. He is loved by other families. He is loved by everyone wherever he goes. This is the experience of a value-based person. What about valueless person? He is disliked in his own family. See that? He is miserable. He gives misery to everybody. A value-based person, he is happy. He gives happiness to everybody. A value-based person is welcome everywhere because he gives peace and happiness. A valueless person, he is not welcome anywhere. He is disliked by his own family. Isn't it? See the difference? Moreover, from the spiritual standpoint, a value-based person, he evolves spiritually. Every time he practices his values, his mind becomes pure. And with a purified mind, he gains a self-knowledge. And with self-knowledge, he gains liberation. Even if he has not gained liberation, one thing is for sure, he is evolving spiritually. Siddhim. If he doesn't gain liberation, but one thing is for sure, spiritual evolution is guaranteed. What about the other person? it is not spiritual evolution, it is spiritual devolution. He doesn't spiritually progress, he regresses, comes back, goes down. See the difference? So from the spiritual standpoint also, a value-based person evolves. And after death, what happens after death? A value-based person goes to the higher worlds, Paramgatim. Uttamagati he gets. What about the other person? He doesn't go to the higher world, he goes to the lower world. And what happens there? There also he continues to suffer. The suffering continues. So from all standpoints, we can say it is only when we practice values we are benefited. There is no choice. So when we thus understand the value of values, we are inspired to practice these values in our life. Now, one may ask, Swamiji, you said you are going to discuss all these values. What is there to discuss? Rather than discussion, what should be given importance is implementation, practicing it. Because these values everybody knows. What is good, what is bad, we all know it. What is right, what is wrong, what is dharma, what is adharma, what I should do, what I should not do. These things we all know. What is there to discuss? What is lacking in this world is not discussion. What is lacking in this world is practice. What is needed in this world is not discussion. What is needed is putting into practice. So this discussion is not needed. A person may have such a doubt. The answer to this question is no, discussion is absolutely needed. Because these topics are very, 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 very subtle. Dharma Shastra is very subtle. It is not very easy to understand what is right and what is wrong. A lot of discussion is necessary, lot of analysis is necessary, lot of deep thinking is necessary. It is not very easy to come to conclusion what is right and what is wrong. Gahana karmano gatihi. Let me give some examples. Matru devo bhava, scripture says. Consider your mother as God, meaning obey your mother, a simple instruction. Now we may think, what is there to discuss so much? It is so simple, obey your mother. Now see, what did Bharata do when his mother Kaikeyi asked him to become the king? Kaikeyi said, "Oh my dear son, I have cleared your path. Now nobody is going to oppose you. You can easily become the king. And this is my request to you, go and become the king of Ayodhya." But what did Bharata do? Bharata not only refused to obey her, it is said, Bharata said, "From today onwards, I am not even going to call you my mother." He scolded her. See that? Today, we revere and worship Bharata for not obeying his mother. Scriptures say Matrudevo Bhava, but here is a person who has gone against it and today we revere. You see how complicated the scriptures are. To understand the injunctions of the scripture is not easy. We cannot just take literally the instruction from the scriptures and practice. No. Lot of analysis is necessary. Deep thinking is necessary. In the same way, Pitru Devo Bhava. Look at Prahlada. His father Hiranyakashipu said, don't take the name. There is nothing called God. I am that God. There is nobody other than me who is God. So don't chant this name called Hari. This is what Hiranyakashipu said. What did Prahlada do? He disobeyed his father, and today we worship Prahlada as one of the greatest devotees of the Lord. What did he do? He went against Pitrudevo Bhava. He disobeyed his father. In the same way, Acharya Devo Bhava. Consider your teachers as God. What did Bhagavan ask Arjuna to do? Shoot them and kill them. Look at that. In the battlefield, Bhagavan did not ask Arjuna to worship his teacher. Bhagavan asked him to kill his teacher. On one side, scriptures are telling one thing, but very many times in real life situation, you will find just the opposite being done. That is why discussion is necessary. Look at the interesting thing. In these 20 values which we are going to discuss, one value is ahimsa, non-violence. But Bhagavan is preaching non-violence where? In the battlefield. And what is Bhagavan asking Arjuna to do? Kill, do himsa. Look at that. Bhagavan is asking Arjuna to fight, but at the same time Bhagavan is saying ahimsa is one of the greatest virtues. Ahimsa is glorified. You see this? There is appeared to be an outright contradiction. And that is why these discussions are very, very important. Otherwise, we will never know how values have to be practiced. One of our Swamijis of Chinmaya Mission, he was in the airport. So when he was seated there, one coated, suited, booted person came to him. He said, Swamiji, I was a Hindu. Now I have converted my religion to Christianity. Swamiji, ask why. Swamiji said, why should I be bothered about it? He said, no, you ask why. He was persistent. So Swamiji said, okay, tell me why. Why did you convert your religion? He said, Swamiji, this non-violence is preached by all religion, but there is only one person who really followed it, and that is Jesus. Look at Krishna. He asked Arjuna to fight, and very many wars he had led. Look at Muhammad. He also fought many wars. But look at Jesus. He is the only person who did not fight any war. Not only that, look at his philosophy. He says, if somebody hits you on one cheek, show the other cheek also. Look at that great philosophy. And moreover, when he was crucified, what a wonderful prayer. Oh Lord, forgive them. They do not know what they are doing. Instead of taking revenge, instead of fighting back, he just accepted the insults and injuries and finally died on the cross. What a great personality. I think he is the only true God in this world, and therefore I have changed my religion. What do you have to say, Swamiji? He asked. No, Swamiji could not keep quiet, because it's a matter of principles. As far as the decision of changing one's religion is concerned, fine, it is his choice. But when It became a matter of principles. Swamiji could not keep quiet. Then Swamiji said, shall I ask you one question? He said, yes, Swamiji, please ask. Who all are there in your family? He said, I, my wife, my mother, my daughter, my son, we are all there together. Swamiji said, suppose an uncultured person comes to your house and misbehaves with your wife. What will you do? According to your philosophy of showing the other cheek, you will say, why only wife? Take my daughter also, take my mother also. This is what you will say. Because that's what it means. Showing the other cheek means what? That person was disturbed. He had never thought in this angle. Then Swamiji asked, suppose you are made the Prime Minister of this country. So there the terrorists are fighting the war, doing all kinds of nonsense, asking for Kashmir. If suppose you are made the Prime Minister of this country, what will you tell them? Will you say, why only Kashmir? Take Srinagar also, take Delhi also, take Punjab also, take Chandigarh also. This is what you will say. Because that's the philosophy. If somebody hits on one cheek, show the other cheek also. Isn't it? This is what you will do. Suppose you are made the judge in a court and a rank criminal comes. What will you do? What will be your decision? Here is a person who has committed so many crimes. Will you say, oh God, forgive him. He doesn't know what he is doing. This is what you will say. It is the people like you who ruin the family, who ruin the nation, because you have not understood values properly. And that person, he understood that he has messed up with the wrong person in the airport. He was tight-lipped. He was soaked in sweat because he had never thought in this angle. He thought non-violence means, now these people are called Lakir ke Fakir. In Hindi there is a saying, Lakir ke Fakir. What do you mean Lakir ke Fakir? Whatever is written in the scripture as it is, without giving any thought, without thinking, following it literally. They take the literal meaning, they don't take the implied meaning. They follow the letter, they don't follow the spirit. They don't understand the spirit. They don't try to think about the spirit in which that letter was written. The greatest tragedy of this world is we follow the letter but not the spirit. We follow the Vachyartha but not the Lakshyartha. We follow the literal meaning, not the implied meaning. All the terrorists in this world are formed only because of this. They are taught only to read, not to think. Look at these terrorists. They say, our prophet said this, so we have to do. Our scripture said this, so we have to fight and kill. See the blunder. They are trained only to read, they are not trained to think. And what are they doing? Only bloodshed. Everywhere. What is the cause of bloodshed due to this religion? There is only one reason, lack of right thinking. These values are given, we don't know how to apply it. For application, you have to think deep. A detailed analysis is necessary. Otherwise, we will wrongly apply these values. Very many times, a virtue, when wrongly applied, becomes a vice. So this has to be clearly understood. We are indeed fortunate. We are indeed blessed that we are born in a culture where we have Shastras and Puranas like Ramayanam, Bhagavatam, Mahabharatam. They are full of stories. filled with values. And these stories tell us how to apply a value in a real, real life situation. Our saints and sages, they knew how difficult it is to understand these values and to practice. So therefore they gave real life situations for us so that practicing these values become easy. That is the reason we have so many stories in the Puranas, in the Ramayana, in the Mahabharata, etc. So many stories are given. The theories have to be understood in practical situations. So such practical situations are given through various stories. We are indeed thankful to all the sages and saints of the past. And we are indeed blessed to be born in such a culture where we have rich treasure of scriptures to make things clear for us. So now with this introduction, now let us enter into the main topic. So we have 20 values mentioned in the 13th chapter. We had chanted these verses yesterday. Now let us take the first virtue. What is the first one? Amanitvam. The first virtue is amanitvam. Mana means ego. Amanitvam means egolessness. This is the first virtue. Bhagavan chooses egolessness or humility as the first virtue because this is one of the greatest virtues to be practiced. Interestingly, you will find this one virtue glorified by all scriptures, by all Mahatmas, by all religions, by all yogas, by all sadhanas. This is one virtue which is glorified. And that is why Bhagavan has taken it the first in the list of virtues. Amanitvam. There's a beautiful quote of Puja Gurudev. Gurudev says, "Renounce your ego is the only request of God." Renounce your ego is the only request of God. And I will make you God is the promise. Renounce your ego is the request. I will make you God is the promise. The one thing which God cannot stand is ego. And the one thing which God loves the most is egolessness. And it is one virtue which is glorified, which is given very high importance in all sadhanas. In Bhakti Yoga, what do? We surrender this ego. We dissolve this ego in loving devotion for God. Through devotion, we surrender this ego, we dissolve this ego. That is what Bhakti Yoga is all about. What about Jnana Yoga? Through enquiry, we understand that this ego is an illusory entity. This is what the Jnana Yogis do. They understand that this ego is an illusion and thus they are asked to drop. That is Jnana Yoga. What about Karma Yoga? In Karma Yoga, you perform all actions and the credit is given to God, not to the ego. You perform all actions not to please the ego, but please God. In this way, you try to drop the ego. You try to make the ego weak. So you will find that in all these paths, the target is the ego. Destruction of ego is given the highest importance. Ramana Maharshi says, Ahamapetakam nijavibhanakam mahad idam tapah Ramana Vagyam. The greatest tapas is this destruction of ego. This is what Ramana Bhagavan says. It's considered to be the greatest tapas. Only when we attend satsang, we come to know that our real enemy is not somebody outside, our real enemy is our own ego. Only when we come to satsang, we come to know. When we come to satsang, we come to know, oh my God, life after life, throughout our life, I have been pampering my own ego, nourishing and fattening my own ego, which is my own greatest enemy. Only in satsang we come to know. Now the question is, how to practice egolessness? How to puncture this ego? Well, practice of egolessness is actually speaking very easy, because the whole world is designed so that we can easily drop this ego. Bhagavan has been very compassionate in this matter. The world is designed in such a way that we can drop the ego very easily. So what we have to do? Start paying attention to the realities of life. Start paying attention. When we pay attention to the realities of life, what do we find? We all are alive on this planet. How many factors are necessary to keep ourselves alive on this planet? Start counting. So first, let us take the external factors. How many factors can you think of? I need food. I need water. I need air. I need shelter. Isn't it? What else? As we go on thinking, we find the factors keep on increasing. The right atmospheric pressure, the right atmospheric temperature, and various gases in the atmosphere, and the various atmospheric layers. So many factors are there. Right humidity, right gravity, right distance from the sun, Earth's distance from the sun, the right speed of rotation around the sun, the right speed of rotation around itself, the right angle of tilt, various kinds of minerals on the earth, the various kinds of lights emanating from the sun, the right position of earth in the solar system, the right position of earth in the galaxy. How many factors can you count? We can say there are infinite factors. Infinite factors, external factors, they are responsible for keeping me alive on this planet. Now what about internal factors inside the body? Oh my God. Brain has to function, liver has to function, kidney has to function, pancreas has to function. And there are so many complicated functions. Respiratory function, digestive function, blood circulation, excretion. If you just take one small patch of skin and take a microscope, nowadays you have all kinds of microscope which can magnify thousands of times. Take a microscope and just see what happens on a very small patch of skin. You will be amazed the amount of activities that happen there. The old cells are replaced by the new cells. The hairs are growing. Sweat is being formed. Dirts are being collected. So many activities are happening on that small patch of skin. So you can imagine the amount of complications that are there in this body, and we are not aware of anything. The million-dollar question is infinite factors outside, infinite factors inside. They are all responsible for keeping me alive. How many factors are in my control? Not even one. Not even one. So therefore I have to conclude, life is not mine. Life is a gift given to me by God. In the same way, talents and abilities. The greatest thinker doesn't know how he is able to think. The fastest runner doesn't know how he is able to run. The greatest singer doesn't know how he or she is able to manage the vocal cord. Isn't it? How we are able to see, how we are able to hear, how we are able to taste, how the hands and legs are functioning, how the mind is able to concentrate, how am I able to think, what are thoughts, I have no idea at all. So finally, I conclude, O Lord, I am nothing, I have nothing, I know nothing, I can do nothing. These four statements, we have discussed this very many times, but again and again I will discuss. Because this has to be remembered throughout our life. They are called as permanent realities of life. PR, permanent reality. So what are the permanent realities of life? I am nothing, I know nothing, I have nothing, I can do nothing. Permanent realities. PR. Remember this code, PR. I will be using it again later. But then you say, oh God, I am nothing, but by your grace I am something. I have nothing, but by your grace I have something. By your grace I know something. By your grace I can do something. So when you start paying attention to the realities of life, two great virtues start developing in you. And what are these two great virtues? Humility and gratitude. Very, very, very important virtues. Humility and gratitude. In your own eyes, you are a nobody. In your own eyes, you are an insignificant person. And at the same time, you are totally grateful to God for whatever you have received. So, humility and gratitude, they are great virtues of life. In fact, they are so great virtues that if you can develop only these two virtues, I guarantee you all your mental problems will just vanish. All the psychological problems which you have, it will just vanish. Just try practicing this for just 1 month. Whenever the ego bloats, puncture it by meditating on the permanent realities of life, PR. Puncture it. Don't allow the ego to bloat. You will have tremendous peace of mind. Because the one thing which takes away the peace is ego. All psychological problems are directly or indirectly connected to this Mr. Ego. Yes. But instead of puncturing this ego, what do we try to do? Unknowingly we boost the ego. How do we boost the ego? by paying attention to the impermanent realities of life. Impermanent reality, IR. Remember this code. Which is the other one? PR. Permanent reality. What is this? Impermanent realities. What are these impermanent realities of life? Name, fame, power, position, possession, abilities, talents, wealth, education, looks, family, caste, creed. These are all impermanent realities of life. So how do we boost our ego? We boost our ego by paying or by giving importance to the impermanent realities of life. Instead of giving importance to permanent reality, what is permanent reality? Please don't forget, I am nothing, I know nothing, I have nothing, I can do nothing. Permanent reality, PR. So instead of giving importance to PR, we are giving importance to IR. And when you give importance to IR, the ego bloats. The ego is boosted. You become an egoistic person. You see, this amanitvam term has come from mana. This mana is a very interesting term. You know what mana is? Miyate anena iti manaha. That with which you measure. Miyate, to measure. That with which you measure. So you measure yourself, you measure others. How do you measure? You measure by paying attention to impermanent reality. For example, wealth, you measure yourself, you measure others. And when you find that you have much more than others, then the ego takes the form of superiority complex. And when you find that you have very little compared to others, then the ego takes the form of inferiority complex. So the superiority complex and inferiority complex, they are the two sides of the same coin, ego. Mana becomes abhimana, superiority complex, when you have much more than others. Mana becomes apamana when you have much less than others. See? Now you may ask, what is the problem with ego? A person with ego has a defective personality. And what are the defects in his personality? There are two defects. An egoistic person will have two defects in his personality. What are they? Number one, he will have a self-centered personality. And number two, he will have an insistent personality. Two defects in personality. Self-centered personality and insistent personality. What do you mean self-centered personality? An egoistic person is full of himself. He cannot think anyone or anything other than himself. That's called as self-centered. You know this gravity? Anything you throw in the air, it is pulled by this gravity towards the center of the earth. Anything you throw, it goes towards the center. In the same way, anything you discuss with this person, it boils down to I. He comes to himself. So suddenly the discussion turns into self-description, self-narration and self-glorification. You can't discuss anything with that person. And this person cannot think anything other than him. It's like a gravity. He can't leave this I. The I consumes everything. And therefore, this person cannot think of the welfare of the family, and therefore the family members dislike him. Because if you have to think about the welfare of the family, you have to go beyond I. Only then you can think of the family. Family is bigger than I. This person cannot leave this I, cannot think bigger than I, higher than I. So therefore this person cannot think for the welfare of the family members dislike him. He cannot think of the welfare of the team, so team members dislike him. He cannot think of the welfare of the organization, so therefore his colleagues, his employers and employees dislike him. He cannot think of the welfare of the nation, therefore his own countrymen dislike him. You see this? Everybody dislikes him because of this self-centered personality. Nobody likes him, and therefore throughout his life he will experience loneliness. This is one defect. The second defect, as I told you, he has an insistent personality. He'll be insisting on everything. He insists that others should respect him. He insists that others should love him. He insists that others should obey him. He insists that he should be the best performer. He insists that he only should win. He insists that he alone is right. His philosophy is either my way or hit the highway. Bas. Either my way or hit the highway. He insists for everything. He has strong insistence, strong likes and dislikes. He wants what he likes. And the tragedy of this world is, the world doesn't run according to your likes and dislikes, according to your insistence. Therefore, this person is always miserable, tensed, worried, anxious, dejected, depressed. He will never have peace of mind. An egoistic person can never have peace of mind. Either he is too excited because he got what he wanted, or he is too dejected, either high or low, never balanced, never peaceful. So here is a personality who is disliked by everybody. Here is a personality who has no peace at all. Look at his condition. That is why we say, to the extent we must dissolve, dilute this ego. Now, we have to discuss one more point, a subtle point. Very many times, humility is misunderstood as inferiority complex, or inferiority complex is misunderstood as humility, because they both appear very similar. Humility is a virtue, inferiority complex is a vice, is a negative trait, but they appear very similar. A humble person also says, I am nothing, I know nothing, I am a nobody. A person with inferiority complex also says the same thing, I am a nobody, I am nothing. Well, then what is the difference? The verbal language and the body language appear to be the same for a humble person and an inferiority complexed person. The body language and verbal language appear to be the same. But one is a virtue, the other is a vice. We have to be very clear. See, this is where discussion is necessary, deep thinking is necessary. What is the difference? Difference number one, a humble person is always cheerful and happy. A person with inferiority complex is always miserable. He is not happy. Though he says, I am a nobody, he is not happy when he says nobody. See this? What is the difference? A humble person is in touch with the PR of life. An inferiority complexed person is in touch with the IRs of life. I hope you remember PR and IR. A humble person is in touch with the permanent realities of life. Therefore, he is in touch with the realities of life, and this is what makes him say, I am a nobody. So when a humble person says, I am a nobody, he also knows that everybody is a nobody in this world. Nobody is a somebody. Everybody is a nobody. Because everything belongs to God. Nothing belongs to us. Therefore, he is peaceful, he is happy. What about an inferiority complexed person? According to him, I am a nobody. But in the society, there are so many people who are somebody. Today I am a nobody. Tomorrow I want to become a somebody. And when I become a somebody, I will be very happy. This is his condition. He is a discontent person. He is an unhappy person. He is a miserable person. He is a jealous person. Look at the difference. A humble person is a peaceful person. He is in touch with the realities of life. Both appear to be meek and lowly, but there is a huge difference. One is a virtue, the other is a vice. It is this inferiority complexed person who tomorrow becomes a superiority complexed person. When he gets lot of things, then the very same inferiority complex becomes superiority complex. Whereas a humble person remains humble always, because he is in touch with the permanent realities of life. So humility is a virtue, inferiority complex is a negative trait. Both appear to be similar. In the same way, self-respect and superiority complex, they appear to be same. Both of them have a good feeling about oneself. Self-respect, in Sanskrit is called swabhimana, it's a virtue. Self-dignity, self-respect is a virtue. Superiority complex is a negative trait, it is a vice. Both appear similar. What is the difference? A person with self-respect, he is in touch with the PRs of life. A person with superiority complex, he is in touch with the IRs of life. How does this person has self-respect? There can be many reasons, but the greatest reason is Lord himself is there in my heart, residing. So therefore this entity, this physical body is worshipful. I may be an idiot, but Bhagavan himself is residing in this body. He is every life in this body. So therefore this body is respect worthy. So the greater reason for self-respect is his knowledge that the Lord is residing in this. The omniscient, the omnipotent, omnipresent Lord is residing. So therefore this entity deserves respect and reverence. So he has a lot of self-respect for himself. But please understand, even when he is having self-respect, he is respecting others also, because the very same Lord is residing in everyone. He doesn't have any superiority complex. So because he is in touch with the reality, this respect is a virtue. What about superiority complex person? His attention is upon the impermanent realities. I have lot of money, therefore I feel superior. I feel good about myself. So there is a comparison with others. It is a negative trait. A person with self-respect, he will only do noble deeds. He will never compromise with the higher values of life, because he doesn't want to fall down in his own eyes. When I do something lowly, something ignoble, I fall down in my own eyes. I lose my self-respect. I don't want to lose it because it's a misery. So therefore, the self-respect in me always prompts me to do noble actions, noble deeds. What about superiority complex? It will only make me do vicious, selfish actions. I don't want others to be better than me, greater than me. So therefore, jealousy will always be there. See that? Self-respect makes me do good actions. Superiority complex makes me do bad actions. Both of them appear similar. We have to be very, very careful whether the good feeling, the nice feeling which I have, is it because of self-respect or is it because of superiority complex? You have to be very careful. To conclude the discussion, this world is like an ICU. What is ICU? Intensive care unit, isn't it? In a way it is true, because the Lord is intensely taking care of each and every one of us. He is taking care of us, as Saint Augustine says. He is taking care of us, He is loving us as though we are the only one in this world. So intensely He is taking care. Just like how the patients are taken care in the intensive care unit. In that unit, all the time the doctors and nurses, they take care of these patients. In the same way the Lord is taking care of each one of us. So this world can be rightly said ICU. But there is another meaning for ICU. What is that meaning? ICU means eye-crushing university. This world is designed in such a way that the main purpose of this world is to crush this eye. Have you seen these machines, crushing machines? Monstrous crushing machines are there. You put a car, you put a scooter, you put a refrigerator, you put a television, you put big rubber tires. In moments, that rotating teeth that crushes it, powders it, and you can collect it from the other end. Small pieces. They are big crushing machines. Amazing. Anything you put, it will crush it. In the same way, this university, this world is eye-crushing university. There is not even a single person who can escape from this world without getting his eye, his ego crushed. And this crushing of ego is a very painful thing. So what is the most intelligent way of living life? The intelligent way of living life would be to live a life of egolessness. So when I am egoless, I am happy, I am at peace, and I am able to give peace to others also. But when I live an egoistic life, I am miserable and I freely distribute misery to others. So what will be the most intelligent way of living? The intelligent way of living will be to live an egoless life. And it is very easy. What are we supposed to do? Pay attention to what? The PRs of life and not IRs of life. Pay attention to PR, not IR. In this way, if we can live, we can cultivate this virtue, and this virtue is very essential for all spiritual seekers. So this is about amanitvam. Tomorrow we will see adambhitvam and other virtues. Om sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet, asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om shanti shanti shanti. Harihi om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi om.
चन्द्रशेखरा गङ्गाधरा सुमनोहरा पाहि मां परमेश्वरा सर्वेश्वरा नीलकण्ठ भालनेत्र भस्मभूषितसुन्दरा पाहि मां करुणाकरा गिरिजेश ओंकारेश्वरा नीलकण्ठ भालनेत्र भस्मभूषितसुन्दरा पाहि मां करुणाकरा गिरिजेश ओंकारेश्वरा शङ्करा चन्द्रशेखरा गङ्गाधरा सुमनोहरा पाहि मां परमेश्वरा मृत्युञ्जय विश्वेश्वरा ताण्डव प्रिय जय नटेश विश्वनाथ महेश्वरा पाहि मां अभयङ्करा व्याघ्र चर्माम्बरधरा ताण्डव प्रिय जय नटेश विश्वनाथ महेश्वरा पाहि मां अभयङ्करा व्याघ्रचर्माम्बरधरा शङ्करा चन्द्रशेखरा गङ्गाधरा सुमनोहरा पाहि मां परमेश्वरा मृत्युञ्जय विश्वेश्वरा मृत्युञ्जय विश्वेश्वरा